back.
We are back
It
once
is
again.
movie talking time,
Yes.
and I'm ready to talk about dinosaurs.
Oh, and I'm so ready to talk about this movie.
I was
Ready to
upset last
dig
week
into
that
it.
I didn't do my Dino DNA impression last week when he says
Yeah,
dinosaur. So I
yeah,
thought I'd
yeah,
sneak it in this week.
yeah.
Bingo, Dino DNA.
Mix in with the code to fit the code, or whatever he says.
hmm
Fill in the holes to mix with the
Oh,
code.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we are back. This is going to be one heck of an episode. I'm
Yes.
actually, in a weird way, more excited about this episode than I was last week
Mm-hmm.
because, I mean, Jurassic Park is such a masterpiece that, there's a lot of good talking points last week. But I think we have even more talking points this week because,
Mm-hmm.
this movie just brings a lot to the table, in my opinion.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. A lot more to discuss, and a very anticipated sequel.
hmm
And had because the first one did so well. Of course, the sequel had a lot of promise to it and buzz, and people
hmm
were very excited. And we'll kind of dig into what happened. So good,
Yes.
bad, ugly, everything.
Yes. I like how you said dig in to a movie about dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Fun. Very nice pun. This is a
Thank you.
dig in,
Thank you.
not a deep dive. Movie dig ins because of
Yeah.
dinosaurs. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, as before we dive in, just a couple of reminders. If you have not subscribed and you want to add to our
Mm-hmm.
number, which is climbing, I want to say, I don't say that
Yes,
in a
it is.
boastful way. I say that in celebration. We're at number
Yeah.
62. If you want to be number 63, just hit the button and
Boom.
hit the alerts, and feel free to comment. And the bell ding
Mm-hmm.
will let you know when we go live. And we got some really cool stuff planned for this week. But today we are digging in to Jurassic Park. Or is it? No, excuse
It's the
me.
Lost World,
The
Jurassic
Lost
Park.
World Jurassic Park. I can never remember. It's the Lost World Jurassic
Yes.
Park.
Yes. The
And feel free
Lost
to comment
World.
along.
Yeah. So we're gonna catch up from last week first, my man.
Yeah,
I'm
we'll catch
assuming.
up. Yeah. I'll be honest. I watched absolutely nothing this weekend except for some stuff we'll talk about tomorrow. But
Yes.
this was a very busy, very good family weekend, and there was very little TV movie watching in my life.
Yeah.
We were so tired by the end of the days this weekend. The wife and I didn't even watch Friday Night Lights. I think we watched one episode all weekend,
Mm.
so we'll have to catch up on
Yeah.
that later. But how about you?
Yeah, kind of the same. Honestly, I didn't watch anything new. We had family come in town, and then my younger, nephews and nephews and niece, not
Mm,
whatever. So
yeah.
they came in and they were like, "Hey, can we watch Jaws?" They were still hyped
Oh,
off of Shark
heck
Week, and they
yes.
hadn't watched Jaws. So I was like, "Really? Does my
Dang
heart
right.
good to see youngins
Yeah.
wanting to watch a classic?"
Dang
So I
right.
got to watch Jaws with them, and that was great. And I got to watch them jump at that fake looking shark like everyone who hasn't seen it does. So it's like, take
Yeah.
that.
Oh yeah. Awesome.
Yep.
Wow. That I don't even know your niece and nephews, but I'm proud of them.
Yep.
And
I am
ladies
too.
and gentlemen, that is why we have physical media. Someone comes
That's
over to
right.
your house and they're like, "Hey, I want to watch this." Well, I got it. Let's watch it. You
Yep.
know, very cool. So
Yep.
so they appreciated the masterpiece that is Jaws. I'm assuming.
Yep. They loved it.
Good.
They jumped at parts and they're like, man, and they were asking, is there more jumping parts? And I'm like, man, you just got to watch. You got to watch. The
Yeah.
stuff's coming, man. And he's like, man, that shark.
Yeah.
It's like, and they're like, how did they get the shark to do that? How did they get to do that? Because you know how he mixed in like real footage of sharks
Mhm.
and,
Mhm.
the robots and stuff,
Mhm.
which, we'll talk
Bruce.
more about today about this movie.
Yeah.
But,
Oh yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
they really did like it. They enjoyed it. And I was very proud.
Good. I feel like we've mentioned Jaws at least one time since the Fourth of July episode on each episode. I'm sorry.
Probably.
I'm obsessed with it.
Yeah, it's great.
Before we dig in further, I just want to remind you guys, Facebook comments are working this week, thankfully.
Yes.
So if you're watching on the Facebook, thank you for watching. And feel free to comment. We will see it live on air instead of
Hmm.
after the show like last week. So
Yeah, we can
feel
actually
free.
respond to it on air. So it'd be great.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
So
So here we
there's
go.
Daniel.
He's already got something to say.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Jurassic Park himself, Daniel.
Yeah. So it
Cool.
is now working. So, movie in question. I know we were trying to figure out the title. So
hmm
here we go.
The
The
Lost
Lost
World Jurassic
World,
Park.
Jurassic
Yes.
Park. And I'm glad that even though it's a different title, they still kept the classic
Yep.
logo. They just
Yep.
added words. Still looks
Yep.
good. Still
It
looks great.
does. is a beautiful logo. I like how it's a little bit distressed there. You
Mm-hmm.
know, looks great. Another movie though, upon media releases, where they just the covers, the posters are just not very good.
Mm-hmm.
The one that came out a couple years ago on the Blu-ray is just a
Yeah,
really
well, it's a
bad poster.
Stegosaurus one, right?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
running from it, and I mean, okay, but
Way to
keep with the
pick the most,
classics.
way to keep the most minute parts
I
of the
know,
movie and
I
like
know,
stick
right?
that on the cover.
Yeah,
Like not the
exactly.
two T-Rexes tearing up the RVs or any of that
No,
stuff.
nothing
No,
like
just
that.
the
No,
Stegosaurus part.
yeah. Might as well put Goldblum standing in front of that palm tree poster yawning. That's a better
Yeah,
poster,
yeah,
you
I know,
know,
right?
than that one. Daggone. But yeah, such an
Yeah.
iconic logo, as we said last week. But The Lost
Mm-hmm.
World, Jurassic Park.
Yep.
Boom.
So
I like to go back to 1997, walk through a theater lobby and see that on the wall. I'd get
oh
you
yeah,
hype. You know.
get you hyped because the original poster was like the first one, just a black background, the
Mhm.
Lost World, and then I think
Mhm.
some of the posters later just had like palm trees and so
Mhm.
you really didn't see much of anything. You didn't know what was going to happen. It was just a logo, and it was great,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
lots of hype, lots of build up, lots of expectations for this movie, and
Mhm.
so yeah, so that's what we get to dig into, and I'm excited.
Indeed. Indeed. So we'll start off with some movie fast facts.
Yes.
So The Lost World, Jurassic Park, almost did it again, was released
Uh-uh.
on May 19th, 1997. So
Mm-hmm.
4 years, there we go, 4 years after the original Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm.
Now, back then, I don't know about what you think, Ephraim, but to me, thinking about in today's times, that seems like a long time in between movies for a blockbuster like
Yeah.
Jurassic Park. These days, you got to hit like Jurassic Park. You're talking about the sequel before the movie's over,
Yeah.
you know, and
Mm-hmm.
that kind of frustrates me at times. But I was kind of surprised. I remember when it came out, but I was like, that's kind of a long time in between
Mm-hmm.
movies.
And it seems even longer too, because at the time, obviously, you didn't have YouTube, you didn't
Hmm.
have all these leaks and all this stuff. The internet wasn't like what it is now, where people can
Hmm.
find out stuff or whatever. Like you didn't find out about this movie until I can't remember what movie the trailer came out of in front of, but until whatever
Hmm.
movie it was that you happened to see, and then the trailer came out, and then everyone started buzzing. Like so,
Hmm.
you had no idea this movie was
Hmm.
coming. Maybe even so more so for us. I mean, we're still kids at the time, so
Oh
even
yeah.
less information we were getting
Hmm.
um, about this. So it's just like, man, that was great, and you thought nothing of it. And when they stopped selling toys in Walmart, you were kind of like, man, I wish there'd be more Jurassic Park stuff. And then boom, movie hits.
There it is. Yeah. Yeah, movies coming out again, and that's how it was when we were kids. I don't want to sound like an old man, when we were kids,
Yeah.
but walking through a theater lobby, going to the movies to see a trailer, that's how you found out things were coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was. I think it taught us patience, you
Yes.
know, which in
Yeah.
my older age I do not have now, and I think because of stuff
Yeah.
like this is why. but
Yeah.
but check
I
out those
do.
numbers. Oh, sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Look at that. I was gonna say, I just do remember the cool part about that too is you're discovering this trailer for the first time in a room full of people. So everyone's
Hmm.
like, oh yeah, oh, like all
Hmm.
excited watching it. So it's like really cool.
Hmm.
Which is
Yeah.
why I think people who do trailer reactions, why they get so
Hmm.
many views, because people still like that, like to have
Hmm.
reaction of others. So,
Hmm. Yeah, I love being in the theater, and which we will be there soon, my friend.
oh
And
yeah,
you see a trailer, and you look over to your friend or whoever you're with, your spouse, significant other, and you're just like, "I'm gonna see that," or
yeah,
"That looks good," or "Stupid."
yeah,
Really,
yeah,
really, another Fast and the Furious? Come on.
yeah, exactly, for real.
But those numbers right there are insanely impressive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that domestic
Yeah,
box office, international, $618 million, and a bunch of other numbers
right.
worldwide. This
Mm-hmm.
movie had a $73 million budget, and this is what it brought home.
Yep,
So I think we have a hit on our hands here.
yep. And I even got more numbers for you, Gary, that I'll put up here.
Yeah.
That not I have more numbers. I just
Hmm.
found them online. Let's just be
Yes.
real about this. But check this out. I mean, there's your opening weekend.
Yeah.
Um, but the 72 million, and you see the legs, how long it lasted.
Wow.
Domestic box office, big weekends. So I mean, look at the production budget. So you see there compared to what it
Hmm.
was last time. Compared to what we saw, what it grossed and all that. I mean, it just made so much money. And there's like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, in the very bottom, you have how many theaters it was in. So,
Hmm.
people much smarter than me breaking all that stuff down. Then you have the adjusted for inflation numbers,
Yeah.
um, what it would have done with box office and opening, weekends and all that kind of stuff,
Hmm.
and domestic too. So you saw like
Hmm.
domestic, it was like 200 something million on the last slide. On this one, adjusted for inflation, it would have been 454. So
Wow.
pretty much doubled, adjusted for inflation.
Hmm.
So the thing made money, it would have made money now.
Yeah. So I think it's safe to say these two Jurassic Park movies have funded Universal Studios pretty well.
Yeah,
And if you've ever been to Universal Studios and you've had a good time, you need to thank Steven Spielberg and the people who made these movies.
yeah,
'Cause that's a lot of coin right there, as they say.
oh yeah,
Um, and also, I don't have all the numbers, but as big as this movie was, it still didn't. Jurassic Park even made even more money, which
yes,
is
it did.
impressive.
Yeah,
And this was and I don't have it in front of me, but I did read earlier while I was doing some research.
hmm
This was the highest grossing movie in 1997, only behind Titanic, which is saying a lot because
it is.
Titanic set all the records up until another James Cameron movie,
Yes,
Avatar.
yeah,
So,
yeah. And so and so that it is just saying a lot. I mean, the Steven Spielberg name, carries a lot of weight. Um, and so of course people show up for that. It's a sequel. So I
hmm.
mean, you're seeing there that people they'll show up for it and they will go and they were there. Um,
Yep.
so yeah, it just definitely a big hit. And the fact that it was behind only Titanic, like
That's, yeah,
says a lot.
yeah.
So yeah, I know. I
I
just
know.
kind of wish we would have remembered to do these numbers for last week.
I
So
know. Yeah,
apologies those
yeah.
watching, but
Hey, yes, apologies. We're learning. We're learning. You
that's
know.
right. We're learning.
I do want to
Yeah.
say I want to take a time out and just say someone's getting hostile in the comments,
Uh oh.
and I want to call them out here. So,
Oh
Tim,
man.
Bussy, I don't know why you got to be hostile there. Okay, but all right, whatever. So, thanks for
I love it.
watching, Tim.
Yeah, that's
So,
right. He may wish you to be eaten up right now, but he gave us the view. So
I
there you
would
go.
tell you what though. I tell you what. I don't want that to happen. I don't want that to happen. I got a wife, got kids, family, mortgage, and a dog
Yeah.
now. But if that were to happen right now, imagine the views we would get. I mean,
Yep.
seriously. I mean, I might take one for the team. That we'd break YouTube records.
Yeah,
So,
and then would be done because real pastors would be just real pastor, and that was cool.
I'm. You'll find out. You haven't found out soon enough. I'm easily replaceable. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
nobody else has the movie knowledge you do around here, my man.
I don't know about that.
Gotta have
Uh,
you on this for this.
so, Efren, we've talked about the numbers. We talked about some fast facts.
Hmm
This movie stars Jeff Goldblum reprising his role as
Yep.
Dr. Ian Malcolm. Um, a couple other
Yeah.
people. I had
I
the.
got you here, Gary. I got
There
you.
we
There
go.
you
There
go.
they are. Boom. Right there.
Boom.
You're the man. Julianne Moore.
Hmm
Pete. Pete is in the movie. I can't pronounce that last name.
Yeah.
He plays the guy that just wants to hunt a T Rex,
Mm.
and I'm like, okay. And then we got the guy, Richard Attenborough, or may he
hmm
rest in peace. He passed away a few years ago,
Yes, he
as
did.
reprising his role of John Hammond. And we have, all the other names. You see some big names there. Vince Vaughn is in this movie.
Yeah.
You know, and I really liked his character in this movie. I really did. I like Vince Vaughn.
hmm
Seems like a cool
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah. Seems like a pretty cool guy. Yeah. I mean, it's seriously like pretty impressive cast
Hmm.
on this. A little bit more known people that people would have recognized, especially at the time.
Yeah,
Um,
there's a
so I
lot
mean,
of
yeah, they did a good job.
people in this movie where you're like, hey, that's that guy from so and so. Like there's a
Yeah.
lot of actors, especially in
Yeah.
the '90s, where nobody really knows their names. But you're like, hey, that guy was in this movie, or that's that guy.
hmm
Um, but Jeff Goldblum, this is his movie, no doubt.
Yes.
He's right there. So,
He's the
so
one
it
that
is
gets
like,
brought back into it.
yes, he does. He does. Um, and of course, directed by Steven Spielberg and John Williams
Hmm
does the score again wonderfully. So, Efren, what
Yep.
is your history with this
And
movie?
so before we get to that, I did find this though, and I wanted to show you
Yeah.
this because I did not know this until I looked it up. Cameo: Steven Spielberg, popcorn eating man.
Oh, really?
Yeah, now I'm like, I need to go back and try to find that because I
Oh,
did
it must have
not.
been in the movie store or the Blockbuster.
Yeah, man, I think that's where it is. I think
Yeah.
that's the only place I can
Okay.
remember someone eating popcorn. So he must have been
Yeah.
in the Blockbuster before the bus goes through
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So I
Daniel,
just
if
wanted to
you're
show you that
watching
fun
this,
thing I found.
That is really cool. Spielberg doing a little bit of Hitchcock there, putting himself in
Yeah.
this movie as a cameo. Daniel, if you're still watching with us, go to your Netflix and find Steven Spielberg and let us know where exactly it is.
Yes.
So that's
That's
pretty
what we
cool.
think it is because I think
Yeah,
that's the only
I
place
just
I can remember.
I
But
can't I can't imagine anywhere else in that movie someone eating popcorn. It's like while they're on the hike, it's like eating popcorn.
yeah,
But
someone just had some popcorn and popped it
yeah,
over a fire real quick.
Daniel's on
So
it. Daniel
yeah, he's
says,
on it.
"Got it."
Yeah, there we
Yeah,
go.
very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So yeah,
So
so
I know you asked me a question. I already forgot. Sorry.
oh yeah, we'll talk about our history with this movie.
Oh,
First
that's
time,
right.
yeah.
Yeah. So with this, once again, it was, had to wait a little bit. I think actually, it wasn't that bad. I think it might have just been like second weekend we ended up going. Because I remember some family members how went and they came back and they're like, "Yo, you have to see this movie. You have to see this movie." So of course, still a kid, and went back, saw it, and was just in awe of everything. Of course, and
Hmm.
still just like a kid, plenty of things I didn't understand till I
Hmm.
got older, like why in the world he was actually going back to the island. I remember as a kid, like, why are we going back to the island? Like, it's
Hmm.
not safe. And so all I remember is Malcolm like not being happy about it, and then him wanting to go back. He's like, oh, okay. Um, but yeah, it was just an excuse for more toys and to
Yeah.
go see a cool movie. And then of course when it came out on VHS, I had to get the VHS that had like the 3D like card that was in it
Oh
that
yes.
had the T Rex like busting
Yeah.
through the logo. Um,
Lenticular cover. Those were
yeah.
big in the late '90s. Man. Remember Independence
Oh
Day
yeah.
had one.
Yep.
This had one. Yeah.
Yep. And I loved it
Wow.
because like you could take that card out and just have it
Hmm.
normal, and then you could put the card somewhere else or put it back. I kept it in, of
Hmm.
course.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I got that, man, my dad was always telling me, "You're gonna wear that tape out," and I just kept watching it
Yeah.
constantly. And of course, I did the sequel back to back. I mean, it was just another movie. Loved
Hmm.
dinos, so I just remember as a
Hmm.
kid just completely loving it. And then when it came out on DVD,
Hmm.
when they did the DVD stuff, my mom, bought the first three for me so I could have them on DVD and all that because it was just something that I always go back to. And actually, uh, let's see, where's it at? Nala, sorry, Nala's in it. Nala, she can't hear me. Give me my T Rex. So
That's
I got
hilarious.
got a little something for you
Yeah.
guys. Give me my T Rex. So this is because I know we talked like my sister talked about my dinos eating things,
Yeah.
and so this is the T Rex from the Lost
There
World,
you go.
and
Nice.
I don't know if you can see it, but there's a hole in there, so he can actually like swallow
Take things
people.
down. Yeah.
Yeah, and then down here in his stomach, there's a slit so he can pull them back out, and he can
There
eat
you
them
go.
again.
Get a bunch of lawyer
So
action figures and
yes, and
yeah.
so like there's the J. This is legit. All
Boom.
right,
That's the
so like
that's
I
the
definitely
official one.
kept this thing.
Yeah.
Yep, this is the bull T Rex. This is the daddy, and
That one, it looks in really good condition to have it as long as you've had. That's pretty impressive.
I know it's probably just the plastic, like just the way
Yeah.
they make. They don't make toys like they did back in the day. But yeah, so
Hmm.
like it is great. It made stomping sounds. I have to change the battery. It roared. It did all that good
Oh,
stuff.
nice. That's cool.
So yeah, so
Jurassic
that's
Park had some really cool toys.
that they did. Yeah.
So Daniel has come through and says he's watching the CNN broadcast
Uh,
when the T Rex is going through downtown. So
okay, okay.
Daniel, thank you for that.
Thank
Now
you
we
for
know.
that. Now I'm gonna
Now
go
we
back and
know.
make sure I find it.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, that is. I wish my history of this movie was as great as yours.
Uh-oh.
Um, but I didn't grow up loving this movie. I'll be honest.
Mm.
I saw it in the theater, and I remember not really liking it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being disappointed that Alan Grant was not in it. I
Ah.
remember looking over to my brother and saying, and I vaguely remember this movie coming out of nowhere. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think it may have been like, hey, we're going to the theater to watch Jurassic Park 2, and I was like, wait a minute, there's a Jurassic Park 2, and
Mm-hmm.
so there wasn't a lot of anticipation on my
Mm.
end, but I was excited to see it. But I remember leaning over to my brother and saying, hey, where's the guy with the hat?
Uh,
Where's and as a kid I was disappointed a lot of the same characters didn't come in, and
mm.
but I do remember leaving the theater and it was the classic. It wasn't the original, so I didn't like it. You
Ah.
know,
You were
a
one
little
of
bit.
those.
I was as a kid. I was as a
Yeah.
kid. And it was more of I didn't like. It wasn't. I wanted something different, so I didn't appreciate what we got. and
Mm-hmm.
we'll get to how I feel about the movie now later. But
Right.
I didn't rush to the store to buy it when it came out, and I just it was just kind of like for me as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
and watched it a few times. It was on TV, but it was up until recent years, it was very much a forgettable movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
but
Fair enough.
and I'm ashamed to say that, but I gotta be honest,
Yeah. No, I understand. Honestly, it may be one of those things too. Like for me, I was just such a dino nut, and all I
hmm
cared about was watching dinosaurs eat people. So
hmm
like, this movie had tons of that, and
Yeah.
so it was
Oh
just like
yeah.
this is fantastic. So that's
hmm
as a kid, it just let me put it.
hmm
I guess the best way to put it is as a kid, and as a teenager, it was really easy to please me, because I was very much the if you can keep my attention for 2 hours or 2.5 hours, and
hmm
I'm like cool, cool, cool.
Yeah.
I was down. It
hmm
was the like the dramas, the suspense thrillers and stuff that I was
hmm
like, this is boring, nothing's happening, it's
Yeah.
just a bunch of talking.
Yeah.
Now I appreciate those a lot more, but back then I
Yeah.
didn't. I just want a bunch of action, so it was
hmm
easy to please back then.
I was the opposite. I was the kid that was watching movies I probably shouldn't have as a third grader at the
Yeah,
time, and so I probably felt, I probably didn't appreciate it as much then because I was watching, those suspense movies or whatever,
right.
you know. But I will say this movie has aged really well, in
Mm-hmm.
my opinion, and we'll get to
Yes.
that later. But so I did say a little bit, it is very different than the first one.
Yes.
This is a very different story, very different plot. We got some new
Mm-hmm.
characters that we talked about, and a new island.
Yes. And I got a picture here for us, Gary, so we can build
Mm.
upon this a little bit.
Mm,
So, didn't turn out as big as
okay,
I thought, but there you
that's really
go.
cool. Look at
So yeah, so different island, and that was one
that.
thing, of course, I didn't expect. And
Hmm
so it kind of has on here. If you recognize the logos, you know what movie takes place where. But
hmm
Jurassic Park is here in Isla Sorna,
hmm
right? And then the other one, where you see from the Jurassic Park 3 logo, the one to the left that's more widespread, that is Isla Nublar, which is
hmm
Site B in
Site
this
B.
movie. This is
Yep.
where they did a lot of the raising of the dinos and getting the dinos ready before they brought them into the park.
hmm Yeah, and I had the same thought. Like, why would they go back? You know,
Mm-hmm.
why are they going back to the park? And then you watch the movie and you're like, oh, there's another site.
Mm-hmm.
And the direction, the thought process of why they're going is completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, John Hammond has a change of heart, I guess. John Hammond is very different in this movie. He's only in it at the beginning, but
Yeah,
that's
you
one
went
of the
from
best parts in the movie.
you went from capitalist to naturalist in just four
In just
years.
4 years.
That's
Oh
that's
wow,
something.
that's something. Yeah, you know that is such a great scene, and that scene right
Yeah.
there. I watched it this morning. And just to kind of catch you up, if you've never seen the movie, the plot is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Efren. You've seen it more than I have. So they want to. So the movie starts off with a family docking their yacht on Site B
Mm-hmm.
accidentally, and the little girl gets attacked by these little green dinosaur things. I don't know what their official name is.
Compies is what they're called.
Compies.
Yeah.
There we go. And all of a sudden you think she is killed, but then it transitions into Jeff Goldblum.
Yawning.
Yeah, as a kid, I thought Jeff Goldblum killed the little girl because it's like I was like, why did he do that? And then he's on a train. Okay, he's
Yeah.
not a bad guy. All right. Uh, and then because through that incident, she was fine. You found out she's fine.
Mm-hmm.
We found out we have a Site B, and John Hammond is trying to preserve the animals instead of capitalizing on them, essentially.
Right. Yep. And he gets to the point where you said like he has that change of heart, and he
hmm
just wants the island just to be left alone.
hmm
And and then of course because of that accident though, InGen, he loses control to his company.
hmm
And then they start having this bright idea, which Hammond knows, but he doesn't share this. You
No, he
find out
doesn't.
as
Yeah.
the viewer, just like the characters find out, that
hmm
they have this really stupid plan to take
Yes.
dinos off the island. And so
hmm
he's like, I got to protect them. They got to stay there because now he's like, we just got to leave them alone. And
hmm
so and so this is one thing that I like. It was just kind of like, as a kid. Well, actually, I guess we can dig into it later. But it was just like
hmm
kind of the thought process behind it of why he sends people there. But either way, he needs
hmm
it documented. That's what needs to happen.
Needs
That
to
they're there.
document. Needs to show that they're in their natural habitat. That they're
Mm-hmm.
not harmful as long as people leave them alone.
Yep.
And he needs 4 people to go. and he wants Ian Malcolm to be his fourth. And
Mm-hmm.
we find out that the reason Ian Malcolm is going is because his girlfriend is on the island, played by Julianne Moore, by the name of Sarah.
Which
And when he
probably the
finds out
most
his,
the
go
believable
ahead.
thing in the whole movie.
Oh yeah, yeah. And as a husband and a father, when I watch this as an adult, I'm like, okay, I get it now.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
I would be very concerned and very angry that my wife volunteered to go do something like that. But and
It didn't
he
tell me.
says, yeah, it didn't tell you, yeah.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite lines of this movie is he says he's gonna go, and he says this is no longer a research mission. This is a rescue mission. And then it
Yeah.
plays the Jurassic Park theme right after
Yeah.
he
And
walks
it's
out. And I
leaving
was like,
right now. Like,
it's leaving right now. I was like, yeah, go Bloom, you go, you're the
yeah.
hero, you know.
Yeah.
But and I love the mixture of they get to the island and you have these researchers, these activists, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and a concerned Jeff Goldblum right in the middle that just wants to get everyone off the island,
Yeah.
you know, and then you mix that with the engine people, and what a intense journey we get thrown
Yeah.
into with this movie.
Yeah. And then like even Ian Malcolm points out, he's like, so you want to send very few people on the ground. No fences this time. Like,
Yeah.
like there's nothing.
Oh, he's hilarious in this
Yeah.
movie. He's got those one-liners, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like first it's ooh and ah, and then there's running and there's screaming and
Yeah.
you know.
This is the only place in the world where the geese chase you. Like,
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, yeah, the geese chase. That's what I was trying to remember. I'm glad you said that. It's only
yeah.
goose chase where the geese chase you, and
Yeah.
then you find out his daughter sneaks onto the island with him,
Mm-hmm.
and this adds all kinds of things to this movie.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So definitely a very different movie. I mean, the first movie, there was this theme park, as we discussed last week. They're just trying to get the theme park up and running and things go awry. And this one is like, listen, we have got to protect these animals. We have got to just get people to leave them alone so no one's in danger. They're left alone. They can live, survive, however nature decides for it to happen. And just leave them alone. That's the whole thing. But of course, you do have still the corporate greed that wants to bring dinos back because they still want to capitalize off of all the money, or capitalize, maybe make money back. Still try to salvage is probably the best way to put it.
yeah,
Salvage what they put into it and still try to make some money because they're sitting there not making money.
they
Something else you don't
filed Chapter
understand until as
11.
an adult.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't understand
Yeah.
they were bankrupt. And the other thing I did not realize about this movie until I watched it again the other day is all the stories from the original park, the media and the people, they didn't believe them.
Yeah.
They were kept quiet, and I think and you find that out at the beginning where they tell Jeff Goldblum, he's like, you sharing more campfire stories with Mr. Hammond, are you? And he's like, I was there. Three
Yeah.
people died. You're covering it up, and they don't want to believe it because they want to. If it gets out, they'll never have their park.
Right.
That they still
Right.
want
And
to
they
make
had him
money on.
sign that no disclosure clause or whatever. They can't talk about it or they'll deny it. The guy on the bus made fun of him. He's like, oh, I believed you, and it's just,
Yeah.
yeah. So they're
Yeah.
definitely trying to squash it all, obviously to save face, but, and then now we're starting to see that maybe they can be like, yeah, this stuff actually happened, but now it's all good and now we can make money. And,
Yep.
and then
Yep.
Hammond's like,
Yeah.
no, stop. Like, this
Yeah.
can't happen.
He's-
And
he's
Hammond
learned.
knew this stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like he couldn't, for whatever reason, I guess he felt he couldn't say that because he had to keep things hush hush because he needed the documentation first.
He needed the documentation. He needed to get them on the island. And there's a line in this movie that I'm so glad they put in there. And we'll talk about this next week. If this line would have been in this movie we're talking about next week, it would have been a little more better. Anyway, I'm rambling.
Yeah.
But Vince Vaughn says Hammond's check cleared. I'm free to
Yes.
go. They were getting paid to be there. And he said I had to get my checkbook out. Very realistic. But those were the people who were, but they were still there for the right reasons. But you got the activists, you got Jeff Goldblum trying to save his girlfriend. Then you got the engine people that just want to cash in, and then you got the other guy that just says he just wants to hunt a T-Rex.
Yeah.
I respect that guy.
Yeah.
I guess he's a bad guy in this movie because he's going against what the other ones are doing, but he just wants the thrill of hunting a T-Rex.
Yeah. I mean, he's the big game hunter. He's the one. Stop. Go. He's the one that. Sorry. Go sit down, Boo. He's the one that has led safaris and all that. So this is kind of his life. I mean, kind of it is. It's his life. He's leading people through safaris, stuff like that. And yes, he's done some hunting, big game hunting. Now he has the opportunity to do the biggest game hunting ever in history. So of course he doesn't want to pass it up. So like he doesn't really care about Engine's agenda or anything like that. He's just like, I got hired to do a job, but listen, you can have my fee. Just let me hunt a T-Rex, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, so it's just a job to him. You know, I don't think, you know, obviously the bad guy is, you know, the nephew.
The nephew, yeah.
Who has Engine now, I forget his name, but who has Engine now. Like he's the one who,
yeah,
you know, put this whole thing into motion and even kind of forced Hammond's, you know, he forced Hammond out. And then he even forced Hammond's hand at trying to send the other four to try to, you know, movie's got a movie, but you know, I mean, but at least it kind of makes sense. Like this is what they have to do.
Yeah. His name is Peter Ludlow. I read it.
Yes, there we go.
Yeah. I didn't remember off the top of my head. It was just on the paper.
Yeah, good.
But yeah, I think all that mixture of so many different personalities and they're on the run together. It just makes for such an interesting movie, such an interesting story, and that's the part as an adult that I appreciate more than I did as a kid. You know, like I like to put myself in situations. You know, if that was my wife or girlfriend on the island, I would go and I would be trying to get her off the island. Right. You know, while she's taking pictures and look at this. You know, right. Yeah. But you know, and then you get the people that you're there with. It's an adventure and pretty solid up until a certain point.
Yeah, yeah, so. But it is. It's like, and it did feel very much like probably what would be a natural progression to the first one. Like, okay, now you left, but hey, there's still these islands of dinos. I mean, Site B was a surprise, but with the way they explained it, it makes sense why they would have a Site B. You know, most zoos and stuff have a area where they raise and then they bring into the zoo or whatever.
They have an area that you're not allowed into.
Exactly. So that makes sense. And it does make sense that the company would want to try to salvage what's going on because they're going bankrupt. It makes sense that, you know, eventually someone's going to stumble across the island and it's not like no one's ever going to come across this thing. You know, so a lot of this stuff like makes sense. And, you know, so it's at least like, okay, it seems like a natural progression again, until, you know, what we discuss later. So, so you do have a lot of that kind of stuff going on as well.
So we have some comments here. Says, I have not seen any of the originals. Liz Ned Gaming says. Okay, missing out. Yeah, check them out.
Yes.
Dom, our good buddy Dom, is watching from the next office. So,
attaboy.
Hey, Dom.
Good job.
Busty's back at it. Where is that dang T-Rex? You just got to listen for the earth to move. And
yes.
I think Denzel was saying he hasn't seen the movies either.
Yes.
So, wow. Movie night, Denzel.
I know, right?
So, pretty sure Dom hasn't seen them either.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Dom could tell us where to find some sweet records, though.
No doubt. No doubt.
So there's that.
Absolutely. Indeed. Dang it.
Indeed.
Oh, man. We're trying not to say absolutely as much. So, Efren, what is your favorite part in this movie? I think we both know what our least favorite part is. We'll get to it. So let's talk about our favorite parts.
Yeah. So I think my favorite part in this movie. There's Dom. Nope. Yeah. There we go. So we're educating a couple people at least right now.
There we go.
Yeah. So I think my favorite part, honestly, like when I think of this movie, the thing that there's actually, I guess we can do parts, right? So I guess the two parts mainly that stick out in my head is you know, the two T-Rexes with the trailer scene. You know, that entire scene. That's the first thing that pops in my mind. And then the second thing that pops in my mind is the raptors in the long grass.
Oh my gosh.
So like when they go in the long grass and then the raptors see them and they start hunting them and start taking them out all stealth-like. And then, you know, it goes crazy. So like that, I mean, that scene, like not when Malcolm and stuff, but like those two scenes are the two that like stick out in my mind the most. And then probably like, you know, a third would be when Engine first shows up. And then they're just in that game trail, just trying to capture dinos left and right. And they're like, here's this dino, here's this dino, here's this dino. We got to and then
that's really cool. And they got that sidecar.
Yeah, they have the cool sidecar. I think that's what it is. I love what the trucks were doing. The guy on the motorcycle goes underneath the Brachiosaurus. And then you know, Roland, he can't name any of them. So he's like, Friar Tuck, Elvis.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are some of my some of my favorite parts. Just I guess like obviously more like the dinos and stuff are in it, but just I don't know. I guess those scenes are the ones that stick out the most in my mind.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I'm right there with you. So when I was watching this a couple weeks ago, um, that RV scene where it's hanging off the cliff and the T Rex, because they have that's the other
Mhm.
part of the movie. They have the baby T Rex they're trying to help, and then
Right.
the big T Rex is coming to get it. And that RV is hanging off the cliff above the ocean,
Hmm.
and the way it is shot and the way it is set up is awesome.
Yeah.
And Julianne Moore falls, and she's laying on the windshield, and all
Hmm.
you see is she's sitting on the glass, and it starts to break, and under her is just rocks and water, and
Yeah.
it's such a long fall. And then at some point Spielberg does like a long shot where
Hmm.
he takes the camera through the RV back up to where the
Yeah.
dinosaurs are, and where the guy's trying to pull him back. Is such a well done scene. And I was watching this, and I was like, how did I not remember how good this was? And two, I
Hmm.
was like, why doesn't this get talked about more? Because it was
Yeah.
as much as I love that scene, the first one with the car and the SUV, I think
Hmm.
this one is just so
Yeah.
much better, you know.
Yeah. And I
And then
did
of
hear
course,
rumors that scene, he filmed some of it like in, I guess, a studio he has in his house or something.
oh really?
Like Steven Spieldberg. Yeah. I remember reading that back in, like, back in the day where they're just like, or maybe
Hmm.
he had a studio built on or something. They're like, this is what he does. So just a lot of stuff, like parts of that. I mean, yeah, but
I
it's
did not
really
know that.
solid. So yes, but go
I
ahead,
did
sir.
not. I did not know that. And then the Raptors show up, and then that's what Daniel said. They showed up in the
Yeah.
cornfield thing, and then you see them coming from all around. And
Yeah. I know that's so
I mean,
cool. You just see people walking, you see them like
yeah,
coming in, toot, 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 and you're
uh
just
huh.
like, oh man, it's about to go down.
You kind of forget about the Raptors, and they show up, and you're like, oh yeah, they're here too.
Yeah.
And I
They were
texted
mentioned
you,
earlier, but
yeah,
you forget about it.
I texted you while I was rewatching this, and I was like, I forgot how crazy the Raptors are in this movie.
Hmm.
They're like on like some type of dinosaur steroids.
Yeah.
I was like, I call them meth head raptors. They're
Yeah.
just like at one point he shoves his face through the window, through the glass, trying to get to him, and it's just
Yeah.
like
They
they
jump
are
through glass.
yeah, they're insane, you know. And that whole thing was set up just really great,
Yeah.
and the action is just really great in this movie, really really
Hmm.
good, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
Denzel wants to know where his invite is to. I think he's asking to watch these movies. So
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
Denzel. We're gonna have
yeah,
to have a
we'll do
double
that.
feature at the very
Oh
least.
yeah, indeed,
So
indeed. But
yeah. So yeah. So
all right,
those. Yeah. So those really are some of like
yeah,
just the best parts in this movie. I think some
yeah,
of the most iconic. I mean, even the trailer.
mhm,
You get a
mhm,
quick like snippet of the trailer scene, a quick snippet of the
mhm,
Raptors in the field, like, and you're
mhm,
just like, man, what's going on? And I so
mhm.
so maybe that's part of the reason why those scenes stick out because then when you see it full fledged, it's just like this is insane.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and then it's just well done. There are some stuff in it though. I don't know if you want to get into some stuff we don't like, or you want to wait for that. But speaking of the Raptors, you got the gymnastics scene
yeah,
with his daughter doing the flips and kicking the Raptors in the face. It's like, okay,
yeah,
I guess that's fine, you know.
yeah, yeah,
But this movie doesn't have necessarily the deep, questions that the first one had.
right.
The whole if you should, you could, but you didn't ask if you should.
Hmm.
It's basically, preser- perseverance of these animals versus, you
Preservation.
know, preservation. There we go.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know words. Of these animals versus making money off of them, and that's pretty much the big question.
yeah,
And if you think about it, that's kind of the same question they're asking with the movies today too,
yeah.
a little
It
bit.
really is. It
You
really
know.
is. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't get as deep. I think maybe like for me, I guess some of the deeper moments is just is more like within the characters.
Hmm.
You're just kind of seeing where characters lie and where how they grow and stuff. Like even though it was kind of quick, like when the two come together and
Hmm.
they're like, all right, we're gonna have to stick together because everything that the camp got destroyed, their stuff got
Hmm.
destroyed, so they got to
Hmm.
figure it out together, and then just them just trying to figure out how to survive on this island and having to overcome
Hmm.
some differences they don't overcome.
No.
They just get over it. But
Hmm.
but more so like Ian and his daughter.
Hmm.
You see the tension at the beginning, and he leaves, and she sneaks on, and
Hmm.
now it's just an added layer. Now, as as a husband, or I guess he's not a husband, but his
Yeah.
girlfriend and his daughter is now
Hmm.
on the island. His
The most
priority
dangerous
is just
place
to
in the
keep,
world.
yeah,
Yeah.
his whole
Yeah.
priority is keeping them safe, getting them off the
Hmm.
island. But he does feel like, "Man, I got to help everybody get off this island." He tries to be that Dr. Grant voice in
Hmm.
this, but no one listens to him. So then it's kind of
Hmm.
like going rogue. I got to do what I can. You see that with him throughout the whole thing, where he's just, I mean, even like, when he gets hurt and they're running through the field, and then, he tumbles down the hill where the Raptors are. And then, Vince Vaughn's like, I'm going to go ahead and get this done. He's like, all right, I'm coming. Like, no, you need a rest. But he's focused. He's like, I have to. And so I think, like, for me, that was like cool, just seeing at least his character. Like, he went from just chaos theory, only worrying about himself in the first movie.
Yes.
So now he has more responsibility, and he's trying to look out for not only the people he loves, but now, even towards the end, he's like, we have to save people. And his whole focus is saving people. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. He's Jeff Goldblum's Ian Malcolm. He's more relatable in this movie, I think. And I think he was great in the first one. But, we talked about last week, he's a little obnoxious. He's a little arrogant, and John Hammond even says, I hate that man, And then, but this one, he's more relatable. He seems like, we talked about how we both can relate to that, what he's going through in this movie. And I think you talked about how he tried to have that Alan Grant voice, and no one's really listening to him. And I think it's because he didn't have a hat. If he'd have had that hat, like Alan Grant, people listen. You gotta have a nice hat on an adventure,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah. So you ready to rate this thing?
Yeah, let's rate this thing.
And then we're gonna talk a little bit about some things we do not like and some changes we might make.
Yeah. So, me go first? You go first?
Sure. Yeah, you go first.
All right. Yeah. So this, loved it a lot. Obviously loved it as a kid. It's something that it'll stay in, my heart forever. But then, of course, as you watch it, as you get older, as an adult, you see a couple more things that just are kind of, it doesn't make sense. I know as a kid, I loved the entire movie. As a teenager, I was like, okay, 2/3 of this movie is great. The last third, not so much. And then as an adult, it's still kind of the same, same way. Saw a couple more holes and stuff like that. So for me, and I know this may come a little bit as a surprise, but this movie, and I'm going to have to explain more obviously later, but this movie for me is a 3 out of 5 Hail Mary. So it's, it's not terrible. It's not a masterpiece. It's a good movie. And that's about where I leave it.
You might as well leave those up, because I'm going 3 as well.
All right,
and it might surprise people because we've talked pretty highly of this movie, but the last third of this movie, it brings it down, and it just shifts, And there's a lot that I really, really, really like about this movie, but there's some things I just don't like, and I just can't go up to that 4 love it level. And but I will say, is a pretty solid follow-up for the most part to the original.
Yeah. And considering the history of sequels not living up to the original, especially by this point, there wasn't a whole lot of sequels that were as good or better than the first.
No. I mean,
there wasn't much. So, I mean, this is honestly probably one of the better sequels to a franchise, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting to go back and look at the mid-'90s to see what the sequels were, and just how they compared. Because, the sequels are either way too over the top or just nowhere near as good back then.
Ninja Turtles, for instance.
Let's
just throw that one out there.
Ninja, rap.
And that's all you need to say.
Oh, man.
So
I'll tell you, that beginning of that movie with the pizza is pretty great, though.
Yes, it is. So, but so it looks like we both fall on that one. And, so that's kind of where we're at. So let's break down why I guess we gave those, because I'm sure people are like, what in the world? So go ahead, Gary. Tell them your thoughts.
Efren and I both have a problem with the ending of this movie.
Yeah.
So out of nowhere, and I rewatched it very recently just to see if I felt the same, and I did. Out of nowhere, this movie just takes a total different tone, total different shift, and the next thing you know, there's a T-Rex in downtown San Diego.
Yeah.
And it is just, like I said, it's out of nowhere, and it seems like a completely different movie. You go from this adventure movie, where they're on the island, to all of a sudden there's a T-Rex in San Diego, and it's very over the top. It's very, at times, kind of cheesy. Yes. At some point there's Japanese guys running from the T-Rex.
Yelling, "Go Jedi! Go Jedi!"
that scene hasn't aged well, yeah. So that, in my opinion, brings the movie down. It just didn't fit for the rest of the movie, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. That it's like, as a kid, it was like, oh, this is awesome. Like for me, it was like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Now he's in there running around, and now everyone knows. Like, but as you watch it as you get older, just kind of like, wait, why? Like it again, it's like it kind of makes sense. Like, okay, their still goal is to still salvage this thing, but like you said, it just got silly. And then like they're like, oh, the breathing stopped. We had to get a medication. We didn't know what we were doing. It woke up and like as an adult, like I remember seeing. I'm talking, boo. I'm live, child. Sorry. Shh, sit down.
Quote of the day. I'm live, child. I love that.
Sit down, please. I know. And so like I remember like, and this is funny because even as a kid I thought of this. It's like you had like just the hand that was stuck to like the wheel of the ship.
Yeah.
And then I remember even as a kid thinking, how did the T-Rex get in there?
I know.
Because it was like you had the tiny door, like no windows are broken. I was just like, how did the T-Rex get in there to eat him? Like this. I was like, as a kid, that was the only thing that I was like,
So I didn't even think about that. That's interesting.
Yeah. So like, but there's a lot of stuff. So like, and then I realized like, so we're saying this T-Rex got out of the cargo hold, ran around, ate everybody on the deck and everything, and every level of the ship, mind you, because there's no one on the ship, and then gets back down, and then somehow the guy starts closing it. The T-Rex eats it and then goes inside. Like it's just too much like assumption, you know. And so like even that was just dumb. And then it breaks out, and everyone's like, oh, and Ian Malcolm's like, now you're John Hammond, and it's just like, okay, it just kind of like. So you have that ordeal, and then of course, like it just running through, and like
he eats a dog.
Yeah, eats the dog, but it's just the whole setup of like, okay, go to the park, get the baby, come back, get it to follow us back to the thing, and it was just like, come on, whatever.
I think a better ending would have been where you kind of hint that it might be loose, and then that it might be headed to the city in the movie that way as a cliffhanger, and make that movie kind of like what they're doing now a little bit. But I read somewhere, I don't know how true this is, but that Spielberg really wanted to make a Godzilla movie, and this was his chance to do something like that. Yeah. So, but I just felt like it was just way too much,
Yeah. And then like, and I know some other issues I had too was, again, I did notice this as a kid too, was, Julianne Moore. It seems like she almost died 6 times in this movie. And it was just like, really? So we're just going to make sure she's in danger, but she's not going to die. The gymnastic things with the raptors, the raptors being crazy. Just like I remember my dad saying like, no animal's going to go through all this just to have a meal. I remember my dad saying that. And then me just thinking like, well, maybe they just haven't eaten in a while, but it's just like circle of life, so.
Yeah. Those things were on something.
So there was very much a movie's got a movie moments. And
movie's got a movie moments, yeah.
Like they're stuck in that building with the raptor. How are they going to get out of this? Oh, she did gymnastics. We mentioned that. Remember? Okay, have her kick a raptor. Like it's just.
Well, she also got cut from the team, so she wasn't that good.
I know. Yes. The school cut you from the team? Like.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And speaking of those lines, I mean, Daniel brought this up. The line from Jeff where he says, "You talking to Eddie? The man, saved our lives by giving his." It just too scripted, It's just like it is. It's just like trying to like really hit that point that Ian Malcolm's changed.
Yes, yeah. And as this movie wraps up, and I was thinking the other day, as it wraps up and it approaches the ending, and it starts to kind of fall off a little bit towards the ending, and then it just kind of it just doesn't really land the ending. I thought to myself, are we sure J.J. Abrams didn't have anything to do with this movie? I mean, come on. I know it says Spielberg, but it's somewhere in there. I mean, sorry, J.J. I love Force Awakens, and but come on.
Oh man! But then again, if Spielberg didn't stick this landing, J.J. says Spielberg's is his inspiration. I don't know, man.
Yeah. My other question regarding this, and then we'll close soon. But so Colin Trevorrow, who directed Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom, he says this movie is canon. Oh, he didn't do Fallen Kingdom.
No,
Okay,
he
he's
did
doing
not
the
do
next
Fallen
one.
Kingdom. He's doing the next one. Yeah.
He's doing the next one. Okay. He said before Jurassic World that this movie was still canon, but they weren't going to talk about it
Right.
necessarily,
Yeah.
because if the ending of this movie is canon, there's no way we get a Jurassic World theme park at any
Right.
point, you know. So I'm wondering if that's ever going to be brought up, because the way my mind thinks, I guess I'm an overthinker when it comes to this stuff. Is
Right.
why would they ever open a theme park if this T-Rex one day broke out? But maybe that's some movie
Right.
magic that people just, maybe Men in Black is in the same universe and they did the zapper all over the memory wipe. So,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
this T-Rex never existed.
Yeah, and I think it's like it's almost like they like Lost World is still canon. They're just ignoring the city part. It's kind of like after I watched Jurassic World, that's what I kind of gathered. It's like, okay, like Site B is still there because you know what, like they have to have it still there for this current park to work. So you could still have some of those issues. You just have to ignore the last third. At least that's the way I kind of read it. Because again, like if you had a T-Rex run through the thing and there was a problem, and you know, like you're really going to get people to travel across the world to go to this, you know, and it was just like there's just no way. Like that's not going to happen. Like and you're not going to get any government to say, yeah, this is okay and you can bring people in. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. You're not going to get an entire city of San Diego to sign a disclosure agreement.
Yeah.
It does never happen.
Yeah.
You know, but so that is our dig into the Lost World, Jurassic Park. And if you've never seen this movie and you have Netflix, it is currently on Netflix.
Yep. It is on Netflix. Who knows for how long? Stuff's, you know, you just know how Netflix is, and they have stuff and they don't have stuff. Who knows? It also depends on, you know, Peacock with their thing. You know, they have rights to all that too. So one day they may want to pull it off. So check it out now while you can.
Yeah. Very watchable movie.
Yes, very watchable. You know, we gave it a 3, so very watchable. Just know, I will say the last time I watched this movie, I think it was back in June, maybe it was May. I watched it all the way through until you know, once they're on the helicopter and it transitioned to the city, I turned it off. I just couldn't watch it. I just couldn't finish it.
Need to make like an Efren edit to where they leave the island. I was like, directed by Steven Spieldberg. Yeah. Oh man, that'd be hilarious. But
oh man,
yeah, definitely watchable. Efren, do you want to tell everybody what we got planned for tomorrow?
Yeah, so for tomorrow, in case you guys didn't know, DC had a huge event on Saturday called DC Fandom.
Yes, they did.
They pulled out of like Comic-Con and all this other stuff because they wanted to do this event, and they released a bunch of stuff, a bunch of great stuff, maybe some stuff not so great. I don't know. We'll talk about it. Haven't really talked in depth with Gary about it, so whatever we talk about, it'll be news to each other on our opinions of things. But a bunch of trailers, a bunch of news, some concept art and things like that was really awesome. So we want to get on this and talk about everything DC has dropped. Video games, movies. They talked about comic books. Obviously, we'll focus more on the video games. I may throw in quickly about one of the video games because, both of them. But either way, so there's just a bunch of cool stuff.
I just have 2 words: the Batman.
The Batman.
We'll talk about that tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. I'll see what all we can show and stuff like that too. So if you haven't seen the stuff, we'll show you some of that. And then I would love to get your guys' input on it as we're watching live. Talk with us, chat with us, because I mean there's a lot of news that broke, and it is 100% DC. All right, it's not anything else. There's no Marvel. This is DC, and I will say this: what I saw was excitement. And it seems like DC's getting their crap together. But I'll leave the rest for tomorrow.
Yes, indeed. We gotta sign off because I'm getting excited and I don't want to talk too much before tomorrow.
Yeah, but maybe let's decide. Here's Tim. Saw another lame Batman movie trailer.
Why don't you go cry about Ohio State somewhere? You know?
Wow. Maybe that's what it is. I think Tim is just angry because the Big Ten said no football. So he's got to let it out a little bit. I understand.
So, a Browns fan's calling something boring interesting. Wonderful. Yeah. Love you, Tim.
Yeah. So,
all right.
Well, there you
Yeah,
go.
join
So
us
lots of
tomorrow. I
stuff.
think we're gonna go live. What we say? 3 o'clock
Yeah,
tomorrow.
3 o'clock.
All right.
Go live at
Sounds
3.
good.
And don't forget to subscribe so you don't
Subscribe.
miss
Hit the
out when we
bell.
go live tomorrow and talk about all that great stuff.
Yep. Indeed. All
Indeed.
right.
All right. See you, everybody. Always got to find the
Goodbye.
camera.